je dois l'avouer. It's a feeling I just can't shake. Tel que c'est notre destin à créer.
Under a sky polished by rain, Paris winked in the puddles like an imperfect painting. John Connor walked with his collar up, his steps swallowing Rue de Rivoli with the patience of a soldier who knows the city has ghosts of its own. Cameron walked beside him, silent, her gray eyes sweeping the shuttered windows, the hurried faces, the halos of lights dissolving into mist. "I've been thinking about this all day," he said at last, voice low, as if confiding a code to the night. "It's an obsession, I have to admit." Cameron tilted her head, the slight gesture of a machine that now knew how to handle human nuance. "About me," she stated, without irony. He gave a brief smile, not quite cheerful. "About us, about whatever this is. It's a feeling I just can't shake." They crossed a crosswalk where the white stripes had the fragile sharpness of fresh scars. A distant accordion, worn and reedy, drifted from a bar on Rue Saint Denis. Cameron stopped for a moment to study a torn poster. A woman's face, italic letters, a canceled show. "Humans like incomplete stories," she said. "They leave room for hope." "Maybe it's our destiny to create," he replied, and the word destiny clicked hard against his teeth. Too big for his mouth, too old for his years. They went down toward the riverbank. The Seine rolled unhurried, heavy and dark, carrying the reflections of the bridges like secrets. On the quay, a bookseller was putting away postcards that smelled of dust and thunder. Cameron ran a finger along the edge of an old book. Her sensors recorded the texture, the humidity, the fragility of the paper. John recorded something else, the care she took not to damage what she touched. "There's a story in your eyes," he said, almost in spite of himself. "A secret I want to uncover." She turned. Matrices he could never read shone in her pupils, a sea of numbers ready to close at the slightest attempt. Yet behind them he recognized the faint tremor of a learned hesitation, the caution of a creature discovering that to speak is to risk being changed by what one says. "I was not designed for personal secrets," she said. "I was built to survive, protect, anticipate. And John said, to be followed by things I didn't choose." He leaned on the parapet and looked at the water. "But this is different. Beneath these Parisian skies, let me just listen to you." A tour boat passed downstream, its headlights piercing the drizzle. The lit windows slid over them like nosy glances. Cameron stepped a little closer so they vanished into the shadow of a plane tree. "When I'm close to you," she said, "my models fail more often. Probabilities blur. The unpredictable increases. It's inefficient." He gave a rough laugh. "Thanks." "Inefficient," she continued, "but desirable. Is desirable the correct word?" The silence between them stretched, not as a distance, but as a taut wire they could walk together. John thought of the faces he had lost, the nameless cities, the underground shelters where the air smelled of rust. Paris was not a refuge, no. It was a pause, a fold in time. And in that fold, his own breathing grew lighter. "There's something about the way you look at things," he said. "You see them as variables. I see them as promises. And that scares me." Cameron examined his profile, the fatigue set into his skin, the young hardness of his jaw. She searched the matrices for words, found some too precise, too cold, discarded them. "I can learn another way to see," she said. "If you teach me." Under Pont Neuf, the lapping stacked into echoes, as if the river were talking to itself. John straightened. Then we create our destiny? Minute by minute, even if it's inefficient. Agreed, she said. They climbed back into the city. The accordion bar was spewing a sad waltz now. Inside, couples turned, tired, resumed, as if each were searching for the right speed not to fall. John hesitated on the threshold. Cameron, attentive, caught the micro variation in his heartbeat, the micro flinch of his fingers. She understood the desire, the apprehension, the absurd idea of going into dance while they were being hunted. We have time, she said. We never have time, he corrected. Then let's take it. They sat at a table by the window. The waiter, with a thin mustache and a threadbare vest, set down 2 glasses of syrup with water. House-made, he said, proud. Cameron examined the pink liquid. Her sensors signaled the presence of sugar, strawberry flavoring. She took a sip without grimacing, then another, as if she had just discovered a language simple and useful. I don't know if there's a story in my eyes, she said, but I have archives, and a few moments that don't reduce. When you put your hand on my nape on Baker Street to get me running again, when you laughed in the middle of a power outage because the stars were more numerous than usual, when you said my name too softly to be heard, these are variables that insist. John almost replied. An alert hummed in his modified watch, a metallic breath barely audible. He needed only one glance. The reflection in the window, the shadow of a man lingering too long, the angle of a coat whose cut betrayed something other than a loiterer. Cameron had already classified, evaluated, decided. She placed her hand on the table, palm toward him simple, human in its intent. If you give me an order, I'll execute it, she said. If you give me silence, I'll keep it. He set his palm against hers. The contact was warm, real. The world shrank to nestle there. Neither order nor silence, he murmured. Just us. The shadowed man passed by, shortened his stride before the music, contemplated other prey or other sorrows, then disappeared into a streak of yellow light. There was no gunfight that night, no sprinting escape, no bleeding sidewalks. Instead, the waiter returned, offered some stale peanuts that John declined with a smile. Cameron observed the room. She recorded, she retained, she transformed. When they left, the rain had stopped. The city still smoked, as if the night had pulled it from too short a sleep. They set off walking again, dividing the cobblestones the way one solves a slow equation. John, she said, when you say, let me just listen to you, what should I say to answer correctly? He searched, stumbled over several truths. Maybe nothing. Maybe walk beside me. Look at what I look at. And if one day I become someone I hate, remind me of this night. Agreed, she said, and saved the instruction in a space she had learned to consider sacred. A directory where lines of code fell silent to make room for experience. Under these Parisian skies, there was neither prophecy nor miracle. Only 2 silhouettes who, by dint of obsessions, blind spots, and tiny choices, invented a way of being in the world. It was fragile, perhaps inefficient, but it was, in its way, invincible. Because that night, there was in Cameron's eyes something that resembled a promise, and in John's, a peace he would not have thought possible. And somewhere between a bridge and a shop window, between a handshake and a glass of syrup and water, they decided, without saying so, that their fate would not be read in the straight lines of a machine, nor in the broken lines of a war. It would be traced on the very cobblestones, word by word, step by step, under the patient murmur of a city that knows how to keep the secrets entrusted to it.
I've been thinking about this all day. C'est une obsession, je dois l'avouer. It's a feeling I just can't shake. Tel que c'est notre destin à créer. There's a story in your eyes, un secret que je veux percer. Beneath these Parisian skies, laisse-moi simplement t'écouter.